To the untrained ear, silence is just the absence of noise. To me, silence is a canvas. It has texture, it has weight, it has a frequency, a low hum of the universe waiting to be interrupted. But there was no silence in my granddaughter's home studio. There was only the relentless digital assault of a kick drum that hadn't been touched by a human hand. Thump, 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 thump. It was a sample. A compressed, quantized, soulless WAV file looping at 128 beats per minute. It hit my chest like a rubber mallet. It didn't breathe, it didn't swing, it just marched. A robotic soldier in the army of what the kids called hyperpop. I sat in the corner of the room on a beanbag chair that was murder on my lumbar spine. I adjusted my flat cap, pulling it lower over my eyes to shield them from the neon pink LED strips that lined the ceiling. The room looked less like a place of creation and more like the inside of a cheap gaming computer. Mia stood in the vocal booth. She was 22, beautiful in a manufactured, filter-ready way, and currently screaming at her engineer. "No, no, no," Mia yelled, ripping the headphones off her head. Her hair, dyed a shade of electric blue that didn't exist in nature, whipped around her face. "It sounds flat. It sounds like I'm bored. I need it to sound like glitter, like anxiety. Why can't you get the reverb right?" The engineer, a skinny kid named Jax, who looked like he hadn't seen the sun since the Obama administration, typed furiously on his keyboard. He wasn't moving faders on a mixing desk. There was no desk, just a laptop and a mouse. "I'm trying, Mia," Jax muttered. "I put the sparkle plug-in on the master bus. It's maxed out." "Well, max it out more," Mia snapped. "I have 3 million followers waiting for this drop, Jax. If it flops, it's on you." She put the headphones back on. "Run it again," from the chorus. I closed my eyes. I tried to tune out the neon lights and the smell of vape smoke. I focused on the sound. The track started. A synthesizer that sounded like a dial-up modem having a seizure cut through the air. Then Mia's voice, or rather, the computer's interpretation of Mia's voice. She was singing into a Neumann U87, a beautiful vintage microphone that deserved better. But the signal was being routed through so much processing that the humanity had been stripped away. Auto-tune corrected her pitch before she even finished the note. Compression squashed her dynamics until a whisper was as loud as a scream. "Baby, catch me in the cyberlight slash. We gonna dance until the end of time." I winced. It wasn't the lyrics. Lyrics had been stupid since the dawn of time. I once played on a song about a walrus. It was the pitch. Despite the heavy auto-tune, or perhaps because of it, there was an artifacting on the high note, a wobble. She was straining. She was hitting the note from the throat, tight and constricted, instead of supporting it from the gut. The music stopped. "Ugh," Mia groaned. "It's still not hitting. What is wrong with this?" She looked around the room, desperate for a target to vent her frustration on. Her eyes landed on me. "Grandpa," she said, her voice dripping with condensation. "Stop tapping your foot. It's distracting. You're throwing off the vibe." I stopped my foot. I hadn't realized I was tapping. It was an old habit, keeping time. The internal metronome never stops, not even when you're 71 and retired. "The vibe is fine, Mia," I said softly. My voice was gravelly, worn down by decades of cigarette smoke in jazz clubs and shouting over Marshall stacks. "But you're sharp on the high C." Mia blinked. She looked at Jax, then back at me. She let out a short, incredulous laugh. "I'm what?" "Sharp," I repeated. "Just a hair, maybe 10 cents. The computer is trying to pull you down to the note, but you're fighting it. That's why you hear that robotic wobble. It's not the plug-in, it's the source." I leaned forward, clasping my hands. My knuckles were swollen with arthritis, but the fingers were still long and calloused. "Try breathing from your diaphragm," I suggested gently. "Drop your shoulders, open your throat. Don't reach for the note. Let the note come to you. Imagine the sound starting in your belly button. Mia stared at me for a long second. Then she laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thinks they have evolved past the need for wisdom. "Grandpa," she said, shaking her head. "Go change your hearing aid. Seriously. This is hyperpop. It's supposed to sound like a robot. That's the aesthetic. You wouldn't get it." "Pitch is pitch, Mia," I said. "Even robots need to be in key." "You listened to music when it was recorded on rocks," Mia sneered. She turned her back on me, facing the glass of the booth. "Jax, ignore him. He thinks music stopped existing after Frank Sinatra died. He hums while he gardens. It's cute, but he doesn't know anything about the industry." "I know that if you don't fix the source, the mix will never sit right," I muttered, mostly to myself. "Whatever," Mia said, dismissing me with a wave of her manicured hand. "Let's do another take, and turn the auto-tune speed to 0. I want it glitchy." I sat back. I pulled my cap down. I retreated into the silence of my own mind. They didn't know. Why would they? To Mia, I was just Bill Evans, the old man who lived in the guest cottage behind her parents' McMansion in Calabasas. The man who drove a 1998 Volvo station wagon and spent his days tending to his tomato plants. The man who refused to own a smartphone because screens have no soul. She didn't know about 1968. She didn't know about the smoky basement studios in London. She didn't know about the session work in Muscle Shoals. She didn't know that her tone-deaf grandfather was the Phantom. That was the name the press gave me in the 70s. I was the session player who never took a credit. I was the ghost in the machine. When the lead guitarist of a famous British invasion band was too drunk to play the solo on their platinum album, they called me. I walked in, laid down the track in one take, took my cash in a brown envelope and walked out. I played the slide guitar on that Rolling Stones track everyone loves. I played the piano intro for that Elton John ballad. I played the bass line for that one funk hit that gets sampled in every hip-hop song. I was everywhere and I was nowhere. I liked it that way. Fame is a prison. I had seen what it did to my friends. It ate them alive. It turned them into addicts, narcissists, or corpses. So I chose the shadows. I chose the music, not the image. But sitting here, watching my granddaughter worship the image and butcher the music, it hurt. It physically hurt. Ding! A notification sound cut through the room. It wasn't a text message. It was the specific urgent chime of a priority email on Mia's iPad, which was propped up on a music stand. Mia glanced at it. She froze. The color drained from her face, leaving her looking like a porcelain doll that had been dropped. "What?" she whispered. "What is it?" Jax asked, spinning around in his chair. "Did the video drop? How many views?" Mia didn't answer. She was reading, her eyes darting back and forth across the screen. Her hand went to her mouth. "No," she whimpered. "No, no, no. This can't be real." "Mia?" I asked, sensing the shift in the room. The air had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a vacuum of terror. She looked at me. Her eyes were wide, filled with tears. "Grandpa," she choked out. "It's a lawsuit." I stood up. My knees popped. I walked over to the booth. "Who is suing you?" "Apex Records," she said, her voice trembling. "Or some holding company. They sent a cease and desist and a summons. They flagged Cyberheart." Cyberheart was her new single. It had dropped 3 days ago. It was currently trending #1 on TikTok. It was the song that was supposed to secure her global tour. "Why?" I asked. Mia scrolled down. "Copyright infringement, plagiarism. They say I stole the melody." She tapped the screen. An audio file was attached to the email. She hit play. A guitar riff filled the room. It wasn't a synth. It wasn't a sample. It was a raw, electric guitar, played through a tube amp with just a touch of reverb. It was warm. It was soulful. It was undeniable. It was a melody I knew better than I knew my own name. Da-da-da, da-da-dum. It was the opening riff to Midnight Train, the 1972 anthem by the Nightshades, a band that had burned bright and fast, imploding after one legendary album. Mia's song, Cyberheart, used the exact same melody, note for note. She had just sped it up and played it on a synthesizer. "I didn't steal it," Mia cried, looking at Jax. "Jax, you said the sample pack was royalty-free. You said you bought the rights." Jax looked pale. He started backing away from his desk. I bought it off a site called Loopzilla. It said, classic rock vibes, cleared for use. I didn't know it was the Nightshades. Dude, the Nightshades are legendary. Their estate lawyers are sharks." "You idiot!" Mia screamed. She threw the iPad at him. It bounced off his chest and hit the floor. "You ruined me. They're freezing my assets. The email says my Spotify revenue is locked. My bank accounts are frozen pending litigation." She sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands. "I'm over," she sobbed. "I'm cancelled. They're going to drag me. My career is over before it even started." I looked at the iPad on the floor. I looked at the waveform of the guitar riff. I remembered playing that riff. I remembered the smell of stale beer and cigarettes in the studio in Soho. I remembered the guitarist, a brilliant but erratic man named Mick, passing out on the couch. I remembered picking up his Les Paul. I remembered the rain hitting the window. I remembered writing that melody in 5 minutes because we needed an intro. I never took credit. Mick woke up, heard the tape, and assumed he had played it in a blackout. I let him believe it. I took my session fee, £50, and went home. Now, 50 years later, that melody was about to destroy my granddaughter. "Mia," I said, "get up." "I can't," she wept. "I can't deal with this." Her phone rang. It was her manager, Gary. She put it on speaker. "Mia!" Gary's voice was a panic-stricken shriek. "Where are you? We have to go to Apex Records right now. The CEO wants a sit-down. They're talking about voiding your contract. They're talking about a $10 million liability suit. You need to get here yesterday." I can't drive," Mia stammered. "My license is suspended. The DUI from last month." "Figure it out," Gary yelled. "Get an Uber. Get a helicopter. Just get to the tower in 45 minutes or you're back to waiting tables." The line went dead. Mia looked up at me. She looked like a child. The makeup, the blue hair, the attitude, it was all a costume and it was melting away. "Grandpa," she whispered, "please, can you drive me? Mom and Dad are in Cabo. You're the only one here." I sighed. I looked at the neon lights. I looked at the computer screen. I looked at the girl who told me I listened to music recorded on rocks. "Get your shoes," I said, "and wash your face. You look like a raccoon." The drive to Los Angeles was tense. My Volvo station wagon didn't have Bluetooth. It didn't have Sirius XM. It had a cassette player that had eaten a tape of Kind of Blue in 2004 and never gave it back. We drove in silence. Mia sat in the passenger seat, chewing her fingernails. She was scrolling through Twitter. "It's already leaking," she moaned. "Look, at Popbase just tweeted it. Mia Evans accused of stealing Midnight Train." The comments? Oh God, the comments. They're eating me alive. One-hit wonder. Thief. Talentless hack. "Stop looking at it," I said, keeping my eyes on the 405 freeway. "I can't. It's my life," she snapped. Then she slumped. "It's true though, isn't it? I didn't write it, I just assembled it. That's what everyone does now. We take pieces of things and glue them together." "That's collage," I said, "not composition." "What's the difference?" "The difference," I said, shifting into fifth gear, "is that composition comes from inside. Collage comes from outside. When you write from the inside, you can't steal, because no one else is you." Mia looked out the window. "I don't have anything inside, Grandpa, just anxiety and catchy hooks. That's why I need the samples." It was the most honest thing she had ever said. It broke my heart a little. "We're here," I said. We pulled up to the Apex Records tower. It was a monolith of black glass piercing the smoggy LA sky. It looked like the headquarters of a villain in a superhero movie. I parked the Volvo between a McLaren and a Bentley. The valet looked at my car like it was a contagious disease. "I'll keep the keys," I told him. "The transmission is tricky. You have to finesse it." We took the elevator to the 50th floor. Mia was shaking. She grabbed my hand. Her palm was cold and sweaty. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Please. Gary is going to throw me under the bus. I know it." "I'm right here," I said. The elevator doors opened. The reception area was sleek, white, and intimidating. Gold records lined the walls. Photos of legends, Bowie, Prince, Madonna, stared down at us. "Mia Evans?" the receptionist asked, not looking up. "Boardroom B. They're waiting." We walked down a long hallway. I could hear shouting coming from behind the double doors at the end. Mia hesitated. She looked like she was walking to the gallows. I pushed the door open. The boardroom was freezing. The air conditioning was set to cryogenic preservation. A massive oval table dominated the room. At the head of the table sat the CEO of Apex Records, Simon Vance. He was a man in his 50s, wearing a suit that shimmered. He had the eyes of a shark and the smile of a funeral director. To his right sat Gary, Mia's manager. Gary looked disheveled. He was sweating through his shirt. To the left sat a team of lawyers, 4 of them, briefcases open, laptops out. "Mia," Vance said. He didn't stand up. "You're late." Traffic," Mia stammered. She pointed at me. "My grandfather drove me." Vance looked at me. He scanned my flat cap, my flannel shirt, my corduroy pants. He dismissed me in less than a second. To him, I was furniture. "Sit down," Vance commanded. Mia sat. I took a chair in the corner, away from the table. I wanted to observe. I wanted to listen. "Let's cut to the chase," Vance said. He tapped a tablet on the table. "The Nightshades estate has filed a preliminary injunction. They have a forensic musicologist's report. It's damning, Mia." He pressed a button. Huge speakers mounted in the walls roared to life. First, they played Mia's song, "Baby, Catch Me in the Cyberlight." Then they played "Midnight Train," the guitar riff, da-da-da, da-da-dum. Then they played them on top of each other. It was sickeningly perfect. The waveforms matched exactly. The tempo was different, but the intervals, the phrasing, the soul of the melody, it was identical. Vance cut the sound. The silence that followed was heavy. "It's a direct lift," Vance said. "You didn't even change the key." "I didn't know," Mia cried. "I bought the pack. I thought it was royalty-free." "Ignorance is not a legal defense," one of the lawyers droned. "And it's certainly not a PR defense. The narrative is already set. You're a thief." "We invested $2 million in your launch," Vance said, his voice cold. "We bought the billboards. We bought the playlist placements. We bought the bots to inflate your streams. And you repay us by stealing from one of the most litigious bands in history." "I can fix it," Mia begged. "I'll write a new song, a better one." "You don't write songs, Mia," Vance sneered. "You hire producers to write songs for you. And clearly you hire incompetent ones." He threw a file across the table. "We are invoking the morality clause in your contract. We are terminating our relationship, effective immediately." You're dropping me," Mia whispered. "We are erasing you," Vance said. "We are pulling your catalog from Spotify. We are canceling the tour, and we are countersuing you to recover our advance. You'll be scrubbing floors by Tuesday to pay us back." "Gary!" Mia turned to her manager. "Do something. Say something." Gary looked at the table. "I'm sorry, Mia. It's out of my hands. You're radioactive." Mia began to cry. Not the pretty crying she did in her music videos. Ugly, heaving sobs. She was watching her life dissolve. I watched Vance. I watched the way he enjoyed it. He wasn't just a businessman protecting an asset. He was a bully crushing a bug. I gripped my cap. I felt the melody of Midnight Train humming in my head. My melody. "This is a tragedy," Vance said, standing up to signal the meeting was over. "But business is business. Security will escort you out." Just then, the heavy oak doors at the back of the room swung open. They didn't just open. They were pushed with force. A man walked in. He was huge. He wore a flowing white linen shirt, loose pants, and no shoes. He was barefoot on the corporate carpet. He had a massive grey beard that reached his chest and wild Einstein-like hair. He was wearing dark sunglasses indoors. The room froze. It was Marcus King, the super producer, the man who had revitalized the careers of Johnny Cash, Adele, and Metallica. The man who was considered a mystic guru of sound. He didn't just produce albums, he anointed them. Vance's demeanor changed instantly. He went from bully to sycophant. "Marcus," Vance beamed, rushing around the table. "We weren't expecting you until the board meeting next week. What a surprise. An honor, truly." Marcus King ignored him. He didn't even look at him. He walked into the room, bringing a strange, calm energy with him. He looked at the lawyers. He looked at the crying girl. "I heard the track," Marcus said. His voice was deep, resonant, like a cello. "I was in Studio A. I heard the comparison." "Yes," Vance said quickly. "Terrible business. Plagiarism. We are handling it. We are terminating the artist." "It's a great melody," Marcus said. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were piercingly blue. "Timeless. That's why it works." "Well, yes," Vance laughed nervously. "It's the Nightshades. It's classic." "It's not the Nightshades," Marcus said. "Mick couldn't write a melody like that to save his life. Mick was a rhythm player. He was a strummer." Marcus walked around the table. He seemed to be looking for something, or someone. "I always wondered who played that session," Marcus mused. "I was the tape op on that record. Did you know that, Vance? I was 19. I made the coffee." I didn't know that," Vance said. "Mick was passed out," Marcus continued, walking slowly. "The producer was in the bathroom doing lines, and this shadow walked in, sat down, played the most beautiful line I had ever heard, and then walked out." Marcus stopped. He was standing in front of the corner where I sat. I looked up. I hadn't seen Marcus since 1969. He was a kid then, a skinny kid with an afro, fetching tea at Abbey Road, while I was laying down a bass track for a Beatle. He looked at me. He looked at my flat cap. He looked at my flannel shirt. Then he looked at my hands. He looked at the callus on my left ring finger, the specific deformed curve of a finger that has held down heavy gauge strings for 50 years. Marcus King smiled. It was the smile of a man who had finally found the missing piece of a puzzle. "Bill?" Marcus whispered. The room went silent. Vance looked confused. Mia looked up from her hands, mascara running down her face. "Is that you?" Marcus asked, his voice full of wonder. "I haven't seen you since Abbey Road. 1969, the Sun King session." I stood up slowly. I put my cap on my head. "Hello, Marcus," I said. "You've done well for yourself. Though you should put some shoes on. You'll catch a cold." Marcus laughed. He threw his arms wide and hugged me. It was a bear hug. He smelled of sage and expensive weed. "The Phantom!" Marcus shouted, turning to the stunned room. "The man with the golden ear. The ghost of Soho." He released me and looked at Vance, who was staring at us with his mouth open. "Vance?" Marcus boomed. "Do you know who this is?" He's the girl's grandfather," Vance stammered. "He's a nobody, a driver." "A nobody?" Marcus roared. "You suit, you empty suit. This man is the reason half the albums on your wall exist." Marcus pointed at a gold record of a Rolling Stones album. He played the slide on that. He pointed at a Bowie poster. He arranged the strings on that. He pointed at me. "This is Bill Evans, the greatest session musician who ever lived. And he's the only man I have ever met who refused to sign his name to a hit." Marcus looked at Mia. She was staring at me, her eyes wide, her mouth trembling. "Grandpa?" she whispered. I looked at her. "I told you, Mia," I said softly. "You were sharp on the high C." Silent music. Part 2, The Session and the Phantom. The silence in the boardroom of Apex Records was no longer the silence of tension. It was the silence of a vacuum, the kind that exists after a bomb goes off, but before the debris hits the ground. Marcus King, the man who had produced 40 platinum albums and wore sunglasses indoors, was hugging me. He smelled of patchouli and old vinyl. His beard scratched my cheek. "The Phantom," Marcus whispered again, stepping back and holding me by the shoulders. He looked at me with the reverence usually reserved for religious icons. "I tried to find you, Bill. After the '74 tour, I called every dive bar in London. I called Muscle Shoals. You just vanished, like smoke." "I didn't vanish, Marcus," I said, adjusting my flannel shirt. "I moved to the suburbs. I raised a son. I bought a lawnmower." "A lawnmower?" Marcus laughed, shaking his head. "The man who played the solo on Crimson Skies is mowing lawns." "Grandpa," Mia's voice cut through the reunion. It was small, confused, and trembling. She was looking at Marcus, then at me, as if trying to solve a complex math equation in a language she didn't speak. "Mr. King," Mia stammered. You know him?" "That's my grandpa. He plays the banjo on the porch. He listens to AM radio. He doesn't know anything about the industry." Marcus turned to her. He lowered his sunglasses, looking over the rim with eyes that had seen everything in the music business for the last 50 years. "Banjo?" Marcus repeated. "Child, your grandfather is playing a 1930 Martin OM 45 in those sessions, and he doesn't know the industry because he is the industry. He built the foundation you are currently dancing on." "Excuse me," Simon Vance, the CEO, interrupted. He had recovered his composure, slicking back his hair. He walked around the table, trying to regain control of the room. "This is a touching reunion, truly, but it is irrelevant. Mr. Evans might have been a session player 50 years ago, but that doesn't change the fact that his granddaughter just committed grand larceny against the Nightshade's estate." Vance pointed a manicured finger at Mia. "She stole the melody from Midnight Train. The forensic report is conclusive. Unless your grandfather is also a copyright lawyer, Marcus, his presence here changes nothing." "We are dropping her." The lawyers nodded in unison, like bobbleheads on a dashboard. "It's a direct lift," one of the lawyers said, tapping his laptop. 8 bars, identical pitch sequence, identical rhythm. The Nightshades are notoriously protective. They will bury us." I looked at the lawyer. I looked at Vance. "They won't sue," I said. My voice was quiet, but it seemed to echo in the acoustic treatment of the room. Vance sneered. "And why is that, Mr. Evans? Do you have a magic wand?" "No," I said. "I have the rest of the song." I turned and walked toward the corner of the boardroom. There, pushed against the wall and covered in a layer of dust that offended me, was a Steinway Model B grand piano. It was there for show, a prop for executives to lean against in photos. I lifted the fallboard. The keys were yellowed ivory. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Mia hissed. "Don't touch that. It's expensive." I sat down on the bench. I ignored her. I ignored Vance. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling the ghost of a rainy night in London, 1972, the smell of stale beer, the sound of rain on cobblestones, a napkin on a wet table. I placed my hands on the keys. I played da-da-da, da-da-dum, the opening riff of Midnight Train. I played it with a heavy left hand, giving it the rolling, bluesy feel that the synthesizer on Mia's track had completely destroyed. The sound filled the room, rich and resonant. Mia gasped. It was the melody she had bought. But it sounded different. It sounded alive. I played the verse. I played the chorus. Then I stopped. The room was waiting. "See?" Vance said, throwing his hands up. "He's playing Midnight Train. He's proving our point. It's the same song." "Wait," Marcus King said. He held up a hand. "He's not finished." I shifted my hands. "The Nightshades released the radio edit," I said, speaking over the dying resonance of the strings. "They cut the bridge. The producer thought it was too jazz. Too complex for the radio. I pressed the keys. I played the bridge. It was a complex progression, modulating from the major key into the relative minor, weaving a melancholic, descending counter-melody that resolved back into the triumphant chorus. It was a piece of music that had never been pressed to vinyl. It had never been on Spotify. It had never been heard by anyone outside of a studio in 1972. I finished the piece with a resolving major seventh chord that hung in the air like perfume. I turned around on the bench. The room was dead silent. Even the lawyers had stopped typing. "Where did you hear that?" Marcus whispered. "That bridge, it's not on the album, it's not on the bootlegs. I have heard every outtake. That doesn't exist." "It exists in my head," I said. "Because I wrote it." Vance blinked. "What?" "I wrote Midnight Train," I said calmly, "in a pub called the Black Dog in Soho. Mick, the guitarist for the Nightshades, was sitting across from me. He was drunk. He was crying because he didn't have a single for the album. He had the lyrics, but no music. I tapped my temple. I wrote the melody on a cocktail napkin. I mapped out the chords. I gave it to him. I said, 'Here, Mick, buy yourself a pint.' I didn't take a credit. I didn't sign a contract. I just gave it to him because I was tired of hearing him whine." You wrote it?" Mia whispered. She looked at me with a mixture of horror and awe. "You wrote the most famous rock anthem of the 70s? "I wrote the melody you stole, Mia," I said. "But you didn't steal it from the Nightshades. You stole it from me." "Prove it," Vance snapped. "This is a nice story, old man, but without paper trail." "I have the paper trail," I said. I reached into my wallet. It was an old leather bifold, worn smooth. I pulled out a small, laminated piece of paper. It was a photocopy, folded into quarters. I unfolded it and slid it across the mahogany table toward Vance. "I kept a copy of the napkin," I said. "And I had Mick sign it. Rights to William Evans. Consideration 1 pint of Guinness. Dated October 14th, 1972. Vance picked up the paper. He stared at it. His face turned the color of ash. This is Mick's handwriting," Vance choked. "I have seen his contracts. This is his signature." "The Nightshades don't own the copyright to the underlying composition," I said. "I do. I never enforced it because I didn't need the money. But technically, if anyone is going to sue my granddaughter, it's me." I looked at Mia. "And I don't sue family, even when they auto-tune my work into garbage." Marcus King started laughing. It was a deep belly laugh that shook his frame. "He owns it," Marcus roared. "Vance, you idiot! He owns the publishing. The lawsuit is dead. The Nightshades have no standing." Vance looked at the paper, then at me. He looked like a man who had just realized he was standing on a trapdoor. "So?" Vance stammered. "So the song is legal? We can release it?" "No," I said. "What?" Mia cried. "But Grandpa, you said you wouldn't sue." "I won't sue," I said. "But I won't let you release that trash you played in the studio. You turned a soul song into a ringtone." I stood up. "If you want to use my melody, Mia, you're going to earn it. We are going to re-record it right now, here." "Here?" Mia asked. "But my engineer isn't here." "Good," I said. "We don't need him." I looked at Marcus. "Marcus, is Studio A open?" Marcus grinned. He put his sunglasses back on. "For the Phantom? Studio A is always open. Let's go to church." Studio A at Apex Records was known as the Cathedral. It was a massive room with 40-foot ceilings, acoustically treated to perfection. In the center stood a legendary Neve 8078 mixing console, an analog beast with thousands of knobs and faders. It was a spaceship from a time when music was flown by pilots, not autopilots. I sat in the engineer's chair. The leather was worn. It felt like a throne. Marcus sat on the couch in the back, watching, eating an apple he had produced from nowhere. Mia stood in the vocal booth. It was a large, isolated room with a grand piano and a Neumann U47 microphone. She looked terrified. Without her neon lights, without her entourage, without her vibe, she was just a small girl in a big room. Okay, I said into the talkback mic. My voice boomed into her headphones. Let's work. Where's the track? Mia asked, her voice shaking. I can't hear the beat. There is no beat, I said. I deleted it. Deleted it? Mia shrieked. But how do I stay in time? You listen, I said. I'm sending in the house engineer. Dave? The house engineer, a bearded man who looked like he slept under the console, nodded. Yes, sir. Patch me into the piano in the live room, I said, and kill the computer screen. I don't want to see waveforms. I want to use my ears. You got it. The screen went black. The room dimmed. I walked out of the control room and into the live room. I sat at the piano. I adjusted the microphone stand so it was close to the strings. Mia, I said, take off the headphones. What? Take them off. You're standing right next to me. You don't need artificial monitoring. Hear the room. She took them off slowly. She looked naked without them. We're going to do this live, I said. One take, no click track, no pitch correction, just you and the ivory. I can't, Mia whispered. Tears welled up in her eyes again. Grandpa, I can't sing like that. I need the effects. My voice, it's thin. It's not good enough. It's not thin, I said sternly. It's lazy. You've been leaning on a crutch for so long your legs have forgotten how to walk. I played a chord, a C major seventh. It rang out, warm and full. Listen to the note, I commanded. Don't sing at it. Sing inside it. I started to play, not the fast, frantic tempo of her TikTok version. I slowed it down, way down. I turned it into a ballad, a lament. Da-da-da. Da-da-dum. Sing, I said. Mia opened her mouth. Baby, catch me in the cyberlight. Stop, I said. I stopped playing. The lyrics, I said. They're nonsense. Cyberlight? What does that even mean? It means the internet, she offered weakly. Forget the lyrics, I said. Sing about how you felt in that boardroom 10 minutes ago. Sing about being scared. Sing about thinking your life was over. I played the chord again, harder this time. Sing the pain, Mia. Don't perform it. Feel it. She took a deep breath. She closed her eyes. She started again. This time, her voice didn't wobble. It cracked just a little on the first note. But it was a real crack. A human crack. Baby, catch me. I followed her. I didn't force a tempo. When she breathed, I waited. When she pushed, I pushed back with the bass notes. We were dancing. Not a choreographed TikTok dance, but a waltz. She hit the chorus. We gonna dance until the end of time. She went for the high note, the C, the one she had missed in her bedroom. She didn't reach for it. She planted her feet. She opened her mouth, and she belted it out. It wasn't perfect. It was slightly raw. It had grit. It was beautiful. We hit the bridge, my bridge, the one the world had never heard. Mia navigated the key change instinctively, her voice dropping into a husky whisper as the melody descended into the minor key. We finished the song. I let the final chord decay into silence. For 10 seconds, no one moved. The silence in the room was heavy, thick, and golden. Then, from the control room, came the sound of slow clapping. Marcus King walked out. He had tears in his eyes behind his sunglasses. That, Marcus said, was a record. Mia opened her eyes. She looked stunned. She looked at her hands. She looked at me. I did it, she whispered. I actually sang it. You did? I said, standing up. You finally stopped making noise and started making music. The door to the studio opened. Simon Vance walked in. He looked flushed, excited. He smelled money. Incredible! Vance shouted. I heard it over the monitors. That's a hit. That's a Grammy. We can market this as Unplugged. Mia Evans, raw and real. Get the contracts. We need to sign the publishing deal. Mia's face lit up. The ego rushed back in like air into a vacuum. She smoothed her hair. She looked at Vance, then at Marcus. See? Mia said, her voice rising in pitch. I told you I could do it. I just needed the right vibe. We fixed it. I'm amazing. She turned to me. Grandpa, that was okay accompaniment. A little slow, but we can speed it up in post-production. Add some trap drums, maybe drop a feature on the bridge. I stared at her. The moment was gone. The vulnerability was gone. She had taken the magic we just created and immediately tried to package it in plastic. "Mia," Marcus King said. His voice was sharp. It cut her off mid-sentence. "What?" Mia asked. "Do you know why we signed you?" Marcus asked. He walked closer to her, looming over her. "Because I'm viral?" Mia said. "Because I have 3 million followers?" "No," Marcus said. "We signed you because your last name is Evans." Mia blinked. "What do you mean?" "We knew who your grandfather was," Marcus said brutally. "We knew Bill Evans was the Phantom. We hoped, we prayed, that you had inherited his magic. We hoped it was genetic." Mia looked at me. I looked down at the piano keys. "We signed you on a gamble," Marcus continued, "betting that the blood of a genius ran in your veins." He paused. "Clearly," Marcus said, "it skips a generation." Mia looked like she had been slapped. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "But," she stammered, "but I just sang that. It was good." "It was good because he carried you," Marcus said, pointing at me. "He carried you like a backpack. He gave you the tempo, the key, the emotion, and the melody. You were just the instrument, and frankly, a cheap one." Mia burst into tears. She ran out of the studio. The heavy soundproof door slammed shut behind her. Vance looked awkward. "Marcus, that was harsh. She's still a marketable asset." "She's a karaoke singer," Marcus grunted. Marcus turned to me. He pulled a checkbook from his pocket. "Bill," Marcus said, "forget the girl. Come back. Produce the album. Not for her. For anyone. I'll give you $1 million advance. Right now. Just say yes. The industry needs you. The world is drowning in noise. We need the signal." I looked at the checkbook. I looked at the massive mixing console with its thousands of lights. I looked at the gold records on the wall. I remembered the drugs, the exhaustion, the friends who didn't make it to 30. I looked at my hands. They were tired. "No," I said. Marcus froze. "Bill, it's $1 million. You live in a guest cottage." "I like my cottage," I said. "It has good light." "But the music," Marcus pleaded. "Don't you miss it? Don't you miss the power?" I walked over to the piano. I closed the fallboard. Thud. "Marcus," I said, "music isn't in the console. It isn't in the checkbook. And it certainly isn't in the applause." I put my flat cap back on my head. "Music is the silence between the notes," I said. "Everything else is just noise, and I've had enough noise for one lifetime." "So that's it?" Vance asked, frustrated. "You're walking away? What about the song? What about the rights?" "Let her release it," I said, walking toward the door. "Let her have the ballad version. No trap drums, no auto-tune. If she releases it like we played it, she can keep the money." "And if she doesn't?" Vance asked. "Then I sue you for everything you own," I said, without looking back. I walked out of the studio. I walked past the gold records. I walked past the security guard, who nodded at me. I walked out into the Los Angeles smog. It was evening now. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and orange that no filter could replicate. I got into my 1998 Volvo station wagon. The leather seats were cracked. The interior smelled of old coffee and potting soil. I sat there for a moment. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Mia. "I hate you." I deleted it. I turned the key. The engine sputtered, then caught a familiar rhythmic mechanical sound. I reached for the radio knob. I thought about turning on the jazz station. I thought about finding some classical. Instead, I turned the knob all the way to the left until it clicked off. Silence filled the car. I listened to the hum of the tires on the pavement. I listened to the wind rushing past the window. I listened to my own breathing. It was perfect. "Perfect pitch," I whispered. I put the car in gear and drove home to water my tomatoes.